and she brought the career advice. Now sit back and relax while you get advice that will take you to the next destination in your career or business. And now, Katrina Brittingham. Hello, hello, hello. This is Katrina Brittingham, and I am your navigator on your road to success to help you get venture ready in your business. And there he is. Okay, my lovely co-host. I promise you I will get it right. I was getting it right before I took the little break. So forgive me, I'm still getting acclimated. He's
Yeah,
right
you're
there.
a little rusty. You're a little rusty.
Just a smidge. Um, the
Mhm.
handsome, talented Doctor, the real deal, love.
Hello,
Let me
hello,
get some
hello, hello.
clapping music to go.
Yes, yeah, the
Sound
clapping
effect
sound. Yeah, that'd be good.
to go in there. Once I figure it out. Um,
Hmm.
but we're glad to have him back. He had his own event because, of course, it was Valentine's Day, and
Uh,
of course, this one doesn't think about that.
hmm.
So we were on Wednesday, which of course threw the schedules off. Um, but he's back.
You're
He had
back. You're
a
back.
wonderful love topic to start us back off for the new season and the new year. And he is doing wonderful, wonderful, wonderful things, which we're going to give him a chance, hopefully, but before the end of the show, to tell you about that he's doing something that I'm very excited myself about. Wish I had that, you know.
Yes, yes.
I wish I had that. When I was out there. I
Hmm.
think it would have saved some headaches. I mean, I did have some good male mentors, and a lot of the things he says is the things that they have told me, but it would have been nice to have what he is presenting out to you. Um, as professional women, as business owners who also want to find love and may think that love is not out there for you. I'm a witness that it is out there for you.
It is. It
And
is.
he's a witness as well. And he
Mhm.
helps you to get there. All right. So we're going to talk about some trends in business. Of course, my
Yeah.
handsome Dr. Love will come in with some insight of his own as a business owner himself
Hmm.
and talk about some things possibly that he's seen as a trend in business. Um, So I just wanted to start talking to you about that because as a business owner, you do need to see what the trends are and stay on top of the trends so that you're not pushed out of the market. You don't have a product that is no longer going to be helpful to you. Whether you're a large company, whether you're a small company, is it important to have your finger on the pulse of business?
Yeah.
Okay, and so these are the trends, the top trends for 2022.
Hmm.
And I must say, I was seeing this even before 2022, but with no further ado, one of the things that is a trend is project management. I've seen larger companies do it, smaller companies do it, them looking for a project manager, having the project manager take on a role as project leader. Those titles are interchangeable. They may not necessarily call it project leader, but when you read the description, they're asking for someone who can lead, do more than just manage a project, but that can lead the team.
Hmm.
Okay, so project managers have always been leaders as well as managers, but the need for leadership, especially in this climate, as things are changing, and as things have changed in the business world, and it was already on its way. We've already said that it was already on its way, but COVID-19 kind of thrusted us into what was
Hmm.
the baby steps, because I'm not going to say crawl, but the baby steps into
Hmm.
these things. And technology has taken a great leap forward with the necessity of having to have it with COVID. Okay. And so the leadership role has intensified in the last couple of years, and especially with, people coming out and being virtual.
Mm-hmm.
So you have more organizations using the title project leader as opposed to project manager. It's important that you know that, whether you're an executive in a company, whether you own a company, whether you're an employee of the company, or whether you were a project manager and you're looking for a new role. So when
Mm-hmm.
you see project leader, a lot of times, sometimes people see a title and say, "Oh, that's not me." It read that job description because it may actually be what you have done. What
Mm-hmm.
I've also found is that they're combining certain positions, project manager, business analyst, data analyst, they're combining it. And they're saying, okay, we're looking for a project manager, business analyst with data skills. And so, what they're asking you for is for you to have a little bit more of the technical know how, being able to analyze data, to be able to use that data for business intelligence and to make sound decisions. So not only you managing the project, you're doing a little bit more of that work.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. When I was in corporate, I did all of that. And they actually just called me a business analyst, a senior business analyst, and I did all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of blew my mind when I sat there and I saw what they were asking for. And I was like, well, I've done that. I've done that. And they're like, well, oh, so you were a project manager? Yes, but not officially by title. And so you have to know what your skills are, or what skills you're looking for in who you're calling in to your company, because there are two things that I see. Number one, someone not knowing the skills that they have and that it rolls up to a certain title, and also leaders asking for certain things and certain skills, and they don't really know, if you have all of that rolled up in one package. And pretty much they were all separate roles before. So the possibility of finding someone that has all three of those is a harder task, and it may take you longer to fill that position.
Mm-hmm. So, Katrina, just share a little bit more on when we talk about project manager, project leader, analyst. Are we talking? Are we talking about three separate jobs? I mean, because it's are we trying to hire one person to do three jobs? Are we going to move into overload? Where are we at with this? What are your thoughts?
That's a good question. And I will say yes and no.
Okay.
And I say that simply because it was three different positions. So yes with that, but a good project manager would have at least two, maybe two and a half of those skills. And I say that simply because when it comes to um, SQL, that was something that was strictly like a technical thing. So that SQL is a programming language. Okay,
Hmm.
some people call it SQL, but the actual term, when you look it up, is SQL. You'll have people argue with you about it, but look it up and know the definition of what that is. So, most project managers who were not technical project managers, and even some technical project managers who worked on technical projects,
Hmm.
may not know that programming language and how to actually extract the data
Okay.
that they're analyzing. But
Hmm.
many project managers should know, whether they're technical or whatever, if they're dealing with data, know what the data looks like, and with the business analyst or the subject matter expert, be able to look at what was there and present it and understand it, because this
Okay.
data is used to determine what's going on in the business, whether it's financial, whether it's operational, whether it's executive summary, and they're in that process, so they would know some of it, they would know some parts of it.
Hmm.
um as far as business intelligence, they should know that, because once the data is in front of them, after the data analyst and business analyst has massaged that data to say this is what it is, and they've explained it to them, they should be able to explain it, because that's the job of the project manager, is to be able to explain it to at least the upper management.
Okay.
So they would have pieces of it.
Gotcha.
So knowing that you have those skills, you need to know what skills you have so you can sharpen the ones that you do have and learn the ones that you do not. And
Okay.
it would not be a large learning curve. Is actually, for me, in my experience, I felt like it was the missing piece for the project manager, to know what it is to be able to speak intelligently and manage and lead the team to make
Mm.
sure that they meet their deliverables. That's my
Okay.
personal opinion. And maybe it is because I've had my hand in that and I've done all three pieces because that's just what it was. And to me, it helped me do the job better, to have all of those pieces. But I guess it still boils down to who you ask.
Right.
But I know it just made me better at doing and understanding. Even with me having a data architect, and they may have put certain things together or whatever, but me knowing how to do it, and it helped me with my data architect when he was like, "This is just not working." I was like, "Let me take a look at the coding behind it." He's like, "Oh, okay." And everything. I'm not sure. And I'm like, "Well, what's that right there? Is that comma supposed to be there?" He's like, "It's not." So, it just kind of helped. Um, with that, sometimes with an extra eye, and even with you having all three of those roles, it does not mean that you'll be doing all three of them all at the same time. You may
Mm-hmm.
be using them, depending on the project, as needed, so,
Okay.
but they want a combination. They want someone who knows that stuff,
Okay.
because they found, like I found, that it makes it easier
Mm-hmm.
to run a program from start to completion. Um, it also helps because they know the language the technical people are speaking. They know the language the business area is speaking, even with having their appointed people there. And I know one of the frustrations, that even I've had with project managers, is sometimes speaking, and saying what is needed, and they kind of really don't understand the language you're speaking.
Okay. And
Okay, so go ahead.
one other question, just wanted to, for someone with that brings all those three skill sets to the table, what are we talking in terms of numbers? What what are we looking to pay them? What are they looking to is receive in salary? What is, give me a.
Well, as with any position, it really depends. It depends on any certifications you have, degrees you have, years of experience you have, how long you've been doing it, what your level of expertise is. Are you familiar? Are you intermediate? Are you an expert? Are you highly proficient? Those types of things,
Okay.
they look for.
Got
So, and depending on your knowledge, you could be making somewhere between 60 to, well over six figures,
okay.
60,000 to well over six figures. So it just really depends. And it depends on the company, the size of the company,
Mm-hmm.
what the company was accustomed to paying, because a lot of times these roles are created and the salary is not up to speed to what they're asking you for. It also depends on, the area. Sometimes the cost of living is higher, so the salary is higher. Is just basically on the person who's looking for the job to do their due diligence to find out how much their position is. And they can go to Glassdoor, and other websites to find out what the salary is, the median salary is for that role.
Okay. Okay. That's good advice.
Okay. So we're tapping on businesses, and we're tapping on careers, which is what we normally do, and everything like that. So, um, that's just that tidbit for companies. Like, know what you're looking for again, and know what the range is, because sometimes companies be like, okay, we want this. This is the salary that we budgeted, but is this the salary in your area for it?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Being as though you're asking for these, skills that, range in salary. And actually, honestly, all three of those positions range in the same salary range,
Okay.
depending on what your experience is.
If you was to do each one separately.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it's all in your experience, your knowledge, your education, any certifications that they ask for, any systems they ask for. And so things vary and it depends on the type of projects you've worked on, the type of work you've worked on in the past.
Mm,
So, really look at what they're asking you for and asking you to do, because no two project manager positions are alike. No two business analyst positions are alike. No two data analyst positions are alike.
mhm. Okay.
Like I said, I when I was doing a lot of this, I was either called a senior business analyst, senior data analyst, senior systems specialist. Like, companies call you what they want to call you.
Mhm, mhm, yeah.
And that's sometimes a problem too. They call you what they want to call you.
Mhm,
Okay, you're either analyst, and if you're analyst, you're normally salary and everything like that. If you're a specialist, and so that's like you have specialists, that's hourly, and sometimes that's lesser pay, um, because you're a specialist and not an analyst. Like it's all kinds of different things
okay.
that go into that. So you would have to be savvy. And again, if you need some help and some coaching, I do the coaching for career and business. So we can have that discussion because it's really on a case by case basis, a person by person basis.
Mhm, mhm,
So there's no real solid, definite answer because everybody's journey is different, every company is different,
mhm,
everybody's skill set is different.
mhm. That's
But what
good.
I
That's
can,
good that they have someone to call. See, that's key. You know what I'm saying? To be able to
mm-hmm.
get on the phone and call someone who's been there just to kind of like get an idea of how to negotiate, what to say, and what not to say.
Well, as somebody who's been there and someone who has years of experience helping people get there, and
Mhm,
someone who keeps their finger on the pulse
mhm.
of what's going on in the industry, that all makes a big difference.
Yeah, it makes a big difference. That's right.
So with that, some of the systems that I've seen them ask for in this year is having more what they call business intelligence tools. So that's Microsoft Project, Visio, Microsoft SQL, which is kind of phasing out. Microsoft Power BI is what they're calling it. They're also asking you to have um, some of them smart sheets, which I have worked on, and everything like that. But they want you to have that. They have different things. Different companies work on different things, like Asana, Reich, Easy Project, and this is just to name a few of
Mhm,
those different softwares. You have some who like you have companies who all they use is Microsoft Office and Teams. Teams is real big. Zoom, things like that. They want you to be savvy in those things. They don't want to necessarily train you on it. They want you to already know it,
mhm,
so
mhm.
you can hit the ground running, especially in these types of
Right.
roles. And I just lost my train of thought. But they want you to know these different tools and these different software packages. There it is. Google Office Suite. I've started seeing more and more companies, large companies, and everything wanting people to know Microsoft Office and Google Office Suite. So if you don't know or not familiar, they do have tutorials out there that you can look for in Google to get up to speed on it. Myself personally, I do prefer Microsoft Office. I've worked in both of them. Um, some things I feel is a little more advanced in Microsoft Office. So, meaning that you can do different things that you cannot do in Google Office Suite.
Mhm,
Or if you can do it, is not as easy to do it or user friendly. Like Microsoft Office has like a million ways for you to do the same thing. It seems like not literally a million, but several different ways to get to the same goal where you might not have that in Google Office Suite. So that's something that you may want to be prepared for because some people think, okay, I've worked that Microsoft Word, I can do docs. Worked Microsoft Sheets. I mean, Excel. I can do Sheets, and vice versa. It really is a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
Um, One of the things is that Microsoft did go to the cloud, which Google was a cloud based program all along, but it's just they just have their finger on the pulse of it. They've been doing it before Google was a company. So
Okay.
so
Which
um
one do you think is more user friendly? Which
for me, I feel
did you?
like it's Microsoft Office.
Okay.
In using both of them, and having experience in using both of them. Sometimes Google frustrates me a little bit. It's like, well,
Okay.
why can't I do this? Um, so and I'm trying to keep it copacetic because I don't want Google coming after me, and I'm not plugging Microsoft Office at all.
Okay.
It's definitely a personal preference because you'll
Yeah.
have some people who will like Google Office Suite a whole lot better than Microsoft Office.
Okay.
I think it's the thing of having an app, having a Mac, and having a PC. There are some people who love Mac and swear by it, and there are some people who have a PC and swear by it.
Right.
Same thing with Android and versus iPhone. So you people who are Android lovers love Android. People who have iPhone love iPhone. So it really is a personal preference. But when it comes to companies and them asking for it, um, it would behoove you to be well versed on them
Okay.
all of those platforms, because you never know what the company is going to ask you to use as far as the systems and the software. And I mean, it could be too if they ask you for Google Office Suite, and you prefer not to use Google, then you just don't go for that role, and vice versa. But I'm always of the mindset, why weed yourself out from something that, especially something like that, when it comes to software applications, and you're going for a position such as a business analyst, a project manager, and things like that, because um, it's not that much of a difference that you can't do the job. It's just you just have to go about it a different way sometimes.
Okay. Okay. But
Okay.
both of them will get the job done. You can get the job done either.
Exactly.
Okay. Hmm.
Hmm. Yep. Um, so with that being said, with the call for the combined positions, you still have the separate positions of project manager. You still have the separate positions of business analyst out there. Um, you still have the separate role of data analyst. And so with the specific role of business analyst, you have strong facilitation and communication skills for remote business analysts. And that's what a term that I have seen a lot. A lot of project management work is remote, and not just because it's COVID. You still have some. I started seeing them few and far in between now, where it's like remote until after COVID. But you
Hmm.
have a whole lot more where it's like, okay, they want you to be remote, and so they want to see your leadership skills in a remote environment, to see that you can produce in a remote environment as a business analyst and as a data analyst, because these are positions that you can do 100% remote, where you do not have to go into the office. So they want to see, make sure that you can still perform the job, still meet the deadlines, and that you can communicate effectively remotely. And that is a really um, big skill to have. And it is a learned skill, because just because you communicate, some people communicate very well face to face and not so well remotely.
Hmm.
Um, as far as facilitation, most times, and they've done research on this, is that people tend to work harder from home than they do in the office. And meaning that, oh, if I can't sleep, well, let me work on that project a little bit more, because I can't sleep.
Uh,
After I feed the kids, I can jump back on the computer. Whereas if I'm in the office, once I leave the office for that day, I'm done.
done.
So
Excellent point.
yes. So that is something that they're looking in if you can get the stakeholders buy-in and be convincing um, over the computer, because some people tend to be a little lax because they're in their home, and everything like that, as we saw as we saw at the beginning of COVID, where people were business at the top and party at the bottom, and you could see the bottom.
Yeah.
The kids running in the room. um
Professionalism.
right, yes. I mean,
Hmm.
and honestly, it was kind of thrust on you, and you didn't know that your kid was home. You didn't know they were going to come running in the room, daddy, mommy, those. You did not know that was going to happen. I mean, you had newscasters doing the weather, and the whole tribe of kids came running in a dog, and they're
Hmm.
holding the kids. The dog rover move out the way, and they're still trying to do the
Hmm.
weather
Hmm.
report. We were thrusted in a different era.
That's right.
We were thrusted in a different era, and we were thrusted there with our whole family. And
Hmm.
so that came with some adjustments. The good part is, a lot of kids are in school now, or they've adjusted to being home, and the
Hmm.
parents have adjusted, and have a schedule. So but that's still kind of a concern um with companies. They've been very um apprehensive, let's say, of remote work, and remote work has been out there for quite some time.
Hmm.
I've worked remotely, um, and everything, or some companies had work from home, and it was a perk, and everything, that they would let you do once in a blue moon or once a month or something like that. But um, people have to start to be a little more creative with what's going on, and especially with the different surges that we've had. And we've had uh some false starts, like you playing double dutch. We're going in, we're going in. Oh, we have
Hmm.
this date. Nope, we got to push it back. So they have to be a little more nimble, and be able to speak to that, speak to the fact that you had, when you brought the masses out, about 99% of people were like, I want to be in the office. And then after a year, they were like, oh, I love being home.
Yes.
So now you have to speak to what the employees' new need is, and new benefit
Hmm.
is, and speak to that. Because when companies were not speaking with that, you had the great exodus
Hmm.
of people who were leaving for companies who allowed for remote work. So that's something that we want to consider as well. And companies large and small have taken the hit for that, where people have taken their liberty to move to another organization who would fit their lifestyle. You have some parents who their children never went back into school,
Hmm.
as far as the face to face teacher, because they preferred that. It was a better environment for them and their children. So you have people who did that. You have a great amount of women who never went back into the workplace, um, that actually kind of retired and just started teaching their children, like, who went back into the home. Now they may be kind of squeaking back in. And so, how do you answer and respond to that? So,
Hmm.
that's something that leaders need to take stock of. And I know I kind of went off on the beaten path a little bit, even though it kind of fits in. As they sit and they talk, and they start to do remote work, and they want people to be more savvy for that, then the companies have to answer for that, not
Hmm.
just even temporarily until COVID. Because and I've seen that in posts when clients have come to me, remote until COVID. And I'm like, well, remote until COVID? Because COVID is going on now, but I know what they mean, until after COVID subsides. But after COVID subsides, are you going to have someone who still wants to work for your company
Hmm.
because you want them to come in the office and they prefer to work remotely?
Hmm.
Something that we have to speak
Yeah.
on.
It's a major shift. It's a major
Hmm.
shift.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. So I'm gonna go into give a little introduction into this next area, and then we're going to have a quick break because we are at the half. It always amazes me how quickly we get there. The next topic is agile, and agile is basically a way to complete business. So it is a process that was specifically used in project management and technical project management to get projects done. So it was a way to get it done. It's not a system or anything like that. And again, I'm not going to go into depth into the technical aspects of it. You want to learn it, look it up, learn it. Google is your best friend to find training tools and everything like that.
Mhm.
Um, so, with that being said, we're going to go to a break and then we will be back in 30 seconds.
We'll be back.
The business and entrepreneurial world is full of talk. Talk, 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 talk. Enough. We take everything you've learned, leverage it, and give you the actual tools you need to put all the talk into your walk. Attend the conference that's all about action, strategies, and real ROI. Your executive GPS ticket includes access to seminars and workshops where you'll learn business financing, such as loans, grants, venture capital, and angel investors. Business strategies, human capital strategies, such as hiring contractors versus employees. Government contracts. Register today. www.theexecutivegps.com.
All right, all right. So we have Executive GPS that will help you with your business and help you grow your business and help you get business venture ready. We help everyone from startups who need to know how to start up smart to companies who are growing and need help with growing and scaling their business, and also people who just need help because they found that they may have had some gaps and they need help to fill those gaps and to make sure that they are compliant with different things, and just to make sure that those gaps don't heed or impede their growth. So reach out to us and we can assist you with that. So when it comes to agile, there are different frameworks, and there's frameworks for scaling and working across the team. So that's basically how it is to work across the team and to scale. And a lot of times scaling was a technology based project management tool.
Mhm.
But what companies have found is that the framework and the processes for that was good no matter what the project is. And so this is starting to come into non-technical project management as well. And they have different tools for that, which is the Scaled Agile Framework, or SAFe, large scale Scrum. And Scrum is actually another tool for managing a process that they know that you can use it in every area of project management. And that is called less Scrum at scale, which is S, the at sign S, not to be confused with SAS or SAS, which is a different thing altogether, and the disciplined agile delivery, which is DAD. And these are just a few of the tools to use these different agile scrum principles across your organization. Okay. So we see that companies are beginning to adopt these frameworks as they realize the benefits of being more responsive on a global level. And that's what Scrum and Agile and those types of things help you to do, to be more responsive, to move quickly, because when it came to technology you had to move quickly with implementing systems. And so the way they worked and broke things up and worked across the team was very highly efficient, and they see that they need that for more than just the technological side of it. Okay, so the programs that I mentioned are software, but there is a movement called the Agile movement that was created and developed from a system where it came to managing the project called the Manifesto for Agile Software Development. So, as you can see, it started out in a technological sphere
Mm-hmm.
with being efficient, being quick, being nimble, working with the team and working across the team, communicating across the team, and making sure that these principles and values were adopted to be the most efficient. So now there is a movement to bring that across the organization to make sure that you could be as agile as possible across the organization.
Now, Katrina, is Agile is that's a tool?
Yes and no. Everything
No.
is yes and no
All right.
because they have agile software programs,
Okay.
part of which that
So
I
it can be
named.
a
That's what I was
system.
saying.
So it can be a
And then,
system.
but agile is actually a process
Okay.
of working through a team. The systems help you go through those steps
Okay.
and everything. And so the scrum, that's why I told people, see, everything is not really black and white. It's kind of gray, a gray area. So that's why I told people look those things up, so they know what they are. Some things with those systems, they're going to want you to have certifications for the principles, they may want you to have principles for. So when you go look these things up, it's going to be different things in different areas. And then you have the principles and then you have the different steps to those principles. um,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So it can't get
So I'm trying not to
can't get
go too.
complicated.
That's why I say I'm trying not to go too far in the weeds with it. But
Okay.
those who are project managers, data analysts, and things, hopefully they know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And because if they know what I'm talking about, they'll be able to find a job with this new trend that's going on. If you
Okay.
don't know what I'm talking about, like I said, Google it. Google is your friend
Okay.
because you can at least get a definition for it and you can see if you're already doing it, because a lot of times and I found even in the work that I did, because I was always the as need girl, always.
Mm-hmm.
And I was always I would always turn around like, how did I get into into this? How did I get into this place? Because they had a need. And everything like that. And I had certain technical skills. I had a certain capacity to learn certain things. So they were like, oh well, Katrina would be great for that. And I'm in this whole all of a sudden I'm in this world. And so
Okay.
I'm doing these things and I'm doing these principles. And then people were like, oh, do you know Agile? You know Scrum? And I'm sitting there like, no. And then one day I was like, let me look this up. And
Okay.
when I looked when I looked it up, I'm like, I did that. Um, so it could be that you were working in a company, because a lot of large companies and even small companies do it. They put you in places and you're working and you're doing certain things and you don't know necessarily the technical term
Okay.
for it. One of the things for me, and it comes up with the data science piece or the data analytical piece, was data governance. Well, in my company, we had a whole department that was data governance. So I'm like, no, I didn't do that. And when I looked it up, come to find out I did, because I worked in corporate compliance and then I worked in operational compliance, and it dealt a lot with privacy and who was supposed to have access to what data.
Okay.
That is data governance. And I
Gotcha.
was like, oh, I did that. Um,
So you could actually be doing the job, but because of the terminology, you're not familiar with this terminology, so you're doing what this
mhm.
particular task is, but the terminology throws you off.
That, and sometimes the terminology changes, but it's the
Changes.
same thing. So
Okay.
that's why I was like, look it up, find
Gotcha.
out what that's all about, and you could say, oh, I never did this before. Let me look into it. Let me find out what's going on. Or you would be like, dang, I did that. okay, so I can speak to that, because that's one of the things that you'll find in job postings. They'll throw out this term and this terminology, and people are like, I'm not qualified for that. And I used to go with my clients when they were looking for jobs, and I'm like, no, you did do it. I'm looking at it on your resume, and everything. And it's like, I don't know. That's okay. Look that up. Come back to me next week
Mm-hmm.
and everything. Look that term up. And they're like, oh my gosh, I did do that. So sometimes it's just that it's a big word,
Okay.
and everything. And big words break down the smaller words and be like, oh, okay, I know how to, oh, I was doing that the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to qualifications, sometimes it's just that they're using a word that you've never used in your company or in the job that you were doing, but it was exactly what you were doing. It basically, what you were doing and what you were doing was the definition of that word.
Okay.
That's where we talk about cross transferable skills. And people are like, well, what? I don't have transferable skills. I'm like,
What you do?
most people say they don't, but I find that they do. Let's sit down and have a talk. So again, if you need someone to help you with that, I'm your girl. I do executive coaching for those who are looking for jobs, and these are the type of jobs that are pretty much at the executive level, because once you're in these type of positions, you have a leadership role already.
Okay.
You're seen as a subject matter expert, those things. So these are the type of roles that I help people with, along with management. Well, in it used to be when you were a project manager, whether you had people reporting to you, you were already at kind of a manager level, hence management manager.
Yes.
So these are the type of roles that I assist people with the management and leadership roles on up to the executive roles. So if you have any questions, if you're a little lost, give me a call.
Mm-hmm.
Your girl will hook you up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So when it comes to the data analysis piece, you have a lot of stuff where they're moving more into cloud-based things, artificial intelligence or AI, and how that is going to affect you. Um, yep, I'm going to talk about my pet peeve. Yes, AI is wonderful. The little
Mm-hmm.
chat screens are wonderful until they're not, because they
Mm-hmm.
answer the most basic questions. And I always say you always need to have a human in the background for when the AI takes you through a loop
Mm-hmm.
and you're asking a question it was not programmed to do. And
So the
that's the
question
same
is,
on the phone.
am I a robot or am I talking to a robot? Because it's.
Yes, it might be both.
Mm-hmm.
Because they have that now. They have robots now that are marching up and down the aisles, stocking the shelves and
Yes,
helping
yes,
people.
I saw that. I
Um,
saw that. Yes, yes.
oh my
Artificial
goodness.
intelligence, as you said.
My house director at the time when I was in high school said that this was coming. I'm not even going to tell you what year it is, what year
Okay.
it was, but
And we're
she
not going to
said
talk about
this.
the Jetsons, right?
Not even the Jetsons, but we are in Jetsons time. Like right now, this is Jetsons time. Because they had the visiphone or something like that, and
Mhm.
they were talking on the screen, and that's exactly what we're doing, having conversations through the screen. Hence, that's why you see me, my face made up, so I don't have to be like Jane Jetson with the mask.
Mhm.
Try, to try to show yourself there, and even the watch that you can talk into and have the screen, and
Yeah,
we are there.
we're there.
They're even talking about releasing either this year or next year the hover car. I'm not doing it. I'm not.
Yeah.
No. Mm-mm. I can't do small planes that are certain size, so I'm
I'm with
definitely
you.
not doing something the
I'm
size of a
with you.
cart.
I'm with you.
Um, that's just me. And even the self-driving car, I'm just. I think movies have. iRobot kind of soured me on that.
Ah, okay, okay, okay.
um,
Yeah,
and other movies where all of a sudden the car is taking you somewhere you don't want to go, and the car is kidnapping you or something.
yeah, yeah. I mean,
Um,
I was just thinking about it because I did test drive a car that was self-driving, and I didn't test that feature out. But then I started thinking about it. I said, the self-driving car could serve a purpose in traffic. So, when you're stopping and going, where a car really can't kidnap you.
I just people hack things all the time.
Okay, I
I
got
don't
you.
want to be hacked and Katrina napped.
Okay, I got you. Okay.
So
We were just talking about hacking, right? Mm.
I don't want to be hacked and be, next thing you know, it's like, have you seen this woman? Um
Mm-hmm.
but again, I'm telling you, movies and pop culture have an effect on us, and it because back in the Justice time when I was a kid, I'm like, oh, that'd be so awesome. Now that I'm an adult, I'm like, no,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that would be awesome.
Yeah. You have a different opinion about it. It's a different opinion. Yes.
It is, and what a difference growing up and becoming an adult and experiencing life has
Mhm.
on you.
Yes.
Um, but when we talk about the data analytics and things like that and AI, you get to certain programming, which is certain data. So the data that's there may be slightly different. Who knows? Programming languages may change. How we access and pull the data may change. So it's a way to stay on top of that. And as the climate changes and we go more to AI, um, what is work going to look like?
Mm-hmm.
Not just for the data analysts, but even for the line staff, customer service. What does that look like? It's already started to change, where you have reps who actually do chat, and they're doing that remotely. People are on the phone remotely. Most of the phone reps they are trying to bring back into the office. Once COVID and even now. Whereas if you are working in the chat feature, that's a work from home
Mm-hmm.
primarily. It also gives you flexibility in your work hours when you're doing the chat. That's normally like a 24/7 type thing. Um, as you work remotely, your time may change where you may like, oh, you're on Pacific time, or you could be on Asia time because you can get a job working in the United States for an international company.
Okay.
So what does that look like for you? Are you working the overnight hours? Are you working second shift? Are you working first shift? Um, whatever shift. They might come up with another one. So it allows flexibility in working. Um, and that's true, but also, do you have the skills and skill set? Can you take that data and translate it and then interpret it to whatever audience that you have, from the line staff to management to the technical staff to your vendors? Things with vendors are changing, and CRM and the different things that people are using for the customer relationship management
Mm-hmm.
is changing. And is the company that you're working for customer relationship management gonna still be here? Because are they keeping up? And everything like that, because you'll have people who they've worked with this certain customer relationship management system forever, and then the company decides to change. Are you able to be nimble? Are you able to learn that software? Are you able to get the certifications in it? um, you know, um, prior to me leaving one of my positions, um, I was tasked with training people who did not know a certain customer relationship system. I'm not going to say what it is. I'm
Okay.
not plugging any company; they're not paying me. But it was to train them from off the street to get the certification. Now, in normal circumstances, about 30% of the people who had experience, where it was a mandate that they all had to get certified within a certain amount of time or not have a job, were passing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was tasked to put that program together. Um, and it just so happened that I had experience working with that CRM system. And so myself and along with a colleague was able to put together a training where we had some people graduate with
Mhm.
that certification. And the thing about it is we had people similar programs, and no one from off the street ever actually passed. So this is where we're going to, whereas it's like, okay, we have a need for this talent. We don't necessarily have this talent. And so how are you going to get it? And are you willing to do it? And we had people in the class ranging from like 23, 24 to 65 in the class.
Mhm.
So are you willing to gain that new skill no matter where you are in your industry, no matter how much skill that you have? Are you able to be trainable? Are you teachable?
Now that was,
And
that was one of the questions that I had for you. Is just your recommendation of what is your recommendation in terms of keeping yourself aware of all the changes and the skills and saying the systems. How do you do that? Tutorials? Do you go to class? Is there online? How do you keep up?
you're asking the person that has a whole bunch of degrees and a whole bunch of certifications. Um,
Hmm.
and I
What did
honestly
you
would
do?
say it's really up to the person.
Hmm.
And that's why I said you can Google it, do a tutorial if you want to do a tutorial, especially if you. This is what I would say: if you were already in that industry and your company is not asking you to get that certification, you can do like certain tutorials um, and everything to keep you up to speed and up to burst.
Hmm.
Um, it really depends on your level of dedication, because for everything that I went into, I either got a degree or a certification in it to
Okay.
make sure that I knew, but that was my level of comfort. I wanted to know that I knew what I was doing and that I had the best education in it.
Okay.
So it really depends on the person and what your company is asking for. Like again, a lot of the certifications and degrees I have, my company didn't ask me to get and I didn't need for my job. I
Okay.
just wanted to know and make sure that what I was doing was accurate and correct, and I had the best knowledge that I could, because I was the person that was considered the SME or the subject matter expert. And to
Okay.
me, if people are coming to me as the expert to know, the worst thing that could happen is I'm like, I don't know. And is the thing about it is nothing wrong with saying I don't know, but I don't know, but I'll get that answer for you.
I can find out. Exactly. Right.
Um,
Mhm.
and everything. But I wanted to limit that. And anyone that's in a position like that wants to limit that,
Okay.
because then people won't see you as expert. They won't come to you to get the answer.
Mhm.
So it really depends on your level of comfort. Again, it depends on if the company is asking for it. Because right now, where we are with certain things like project management and data analysis and business analysis, there are certifications you can get in those areas, and companies are requiring it. And they're
Okay.
requiring it for people who have been sitting in that seat and doing that seat, doing that role, that may have learned from Becky Sue, who learned from Johnny, who learned from Debbie,
Okay.
and it was like passed down language, um, and
Let them be
passed down
in-house. It's
duties
in-house.
in house.
Okay.
And I really honestly believe that a lot of that they were asking for that certification and things. Number one, to see what your dedication is, and number two, that a lot of times passed down information was just that, and it didn't necessarily mean that people actually knew what they were doing.
Okay.
Um, and case in point, like when people's like, "Oh, you have 3 degrees." My last degree was not an intended degree. I wanted my bachelor's and my MBA.
Hmm.
The master's of science and accountancy came because I found myself in an auditing department. As I said, I did internal audit. And I'm sitting there and they're training me. Didn't need any certification or degree and everything to do that. Um, well, what I would say, the degree that I had, you did not need to. I had an MBA, so that was enough. But they were training me. And I'm like, I went to my manager who happened to have a degree in accounting. Um, And I was like, well, I'm being taught this, like, because I had asked the person who was training me, I said, well, how do you know that this is right? Is there like a manual? Oh, well, I know it's right because I was taught. And I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, okay. So I went to my manager and I was the new girl. I'm always full of questions. And I was just like, I hope I didn't offend. And she happened to be another supervisor. And I told him my question. He was like, yeah. I said, but honestly, really, how do they know if this is inherited knowledge and we don't have something? Do we have a training class here? Because this company was big on training and had training classes for just about anything that you could think of.
Mhm.
Um, and they were like, we don't have any training. He smiled at me. He's like, we don't have any training. I said, well, how do we know that we're actually doing this right? And they came with a terminology that I had never heard before, which was controls. And so in my mind, control is, oh, I'm remote controller, joystick, something that controls something.
Mhm.
And so I'm thinking that it's this whole technological thing. And I was just like, I said, I'm confused. I don't like to be confused. And they can't answer my question. They're just saying, this is just the way it's done.
Mhm.
And so he smiled at me. He said, this is the reason why I hired you. And I was like, okay, we don't have anything internal that does this. So I started looking for a class, an auditing class.
Mhm.
Nobody just had an auditing class. You had to get it in a degree. So I was like, okay, I'm going to get my bachelor's. Well, no one would sell me a bachelor's degree because auditing is wrapped up into the accounting degree, whether it's bachelor's or master's. No one would sell me a bachelor's degree because I'd already had a master's degree.
Mhm.
So I found myself in a master's program just to take the auditing course.
Okay.
Um,
You just
because I
you just
already
need that
knew
one
accounting.
piece.
I took that in my business administrator master's degree.
Mhm.
Um, so but I was glad I did because I learned some upper level things that helped me in my career when it came to auditing and finance and things like that. But I not only got the answer to my question, I found out what you really were supposed to do in auditing, and where a good amount of the stuff they did was accurate, a lot of stuff was not.
Mhm.
So it really depends on your level of dedication. Are you okay with someone just telling you, well, that's just the way you do it?
Okay.
Or are you okay? Or do you want to really know that what you're doing is accurate?
Mhm. Mhm. Yes.
So that's what it really comes down to. Um, and to me, like I said, I have no judgments either way because you have people who are successful in both areas.
Yes,
It
ma'am.
really depends on the person. It depends on your level of whatever. I am a puzzle girl. I have to figure it out.
Right. That's fine. I want
I
to know.
can't.
I want to know. I
Yeah,
want to know.
yeah. And I'm so much that if I have a puzzle in my, I can't get past it until I have the answer.
Mhm.
So me being that type of person, I came this way because I'm like, well, this is what all the experts say. This is what they taught me on. This is I. So show me
Mhm.
that they're wrong. Um, and that's the thing. Like I was never afraid of being wrong, but show me that I'm wrong.
Okay.
And everything like that, especially with how I came in with the education. Show me that
Mhm.
I'm mistaken. And I have no problem with that. That could tend to rub people the wrong way. I have no qualms with that. I know it does. Not
Mhm.
probably it does. But I have no qualms with changing once you show me that this is a change that should be made because now this is what all the professionals say, what all the experts say, this is this. But at the same time, again, I stay on top of my things because I know that, especially in the auditing sphere where you have regulations and things, they change
Mhm.
yearly. Sometimes when some crisis happens, it changes then. So I stay on top of that. Same thing with career services. Things change. The economic climate changes. The trends in job searching and positions change.
Mhm.
So I have to stay on top and keep my finger on the pulse. So I am constantly in that place of professional development.
Okay.
I can't stay in the place of what we were doing last year or 2 years ago or 5 years ago, because things have changed. Now, if I go to those professional development places and find out that things are still the same from 2 years ago, okay, fine. But
Okay.
and that's alleviated my mind. But again, that's the puzzle. That's me. Some people are okay with this is the way it's always been done. And if that works for you, who am I to judge you?
Okay. Hmm. Yeah. But that's terminology, professional development. Yes.
Yes. Professional development or continuing education.
Hmm. Hmm.
Hmm.
Very important.
So depending on where you are, a lot of companies will say continuing education. Um, in the career services sphere is professional development, and the coaching is professional development when it comes to that. So it really depends on what, again, meaning the same thing,
Hmm.
and everything. You're continuing your education or you're professionally developing yourself. So same, two different words, same
And,
kind
and
of kind of concept,
and don't
but
forget for senior citizens, they're talking about it's age-long learning, always learning.
or lifelong learning.
That's right.
um so no matter how I try to pull myself out of it, I have determined for myself, I'm not going to go to another university to get a degree.
Okay.
That's where I am right now. I'm hoping it stays that way. um I don't mind getting a certification. um Not saying that a certification is necessarily easier, but I mean, a degree normally takes more time. And as I get older, my time has become a little more precious, and everything like that. And I tend to be a little more diligent.
Hmm.
Um, and well, I can't say that. I won't get bored as easily. Because every degree, it was like, yay, I'm starting this degree. By the time I got halfway through it, I'm like, is it done yet? Please tell me that this is going to be over soon.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's just, Katrina, and that's how it worked. When they came to years back, um, I was one of the first people in the accelerated degree program. And I was like, yes, I get
Okay.
to do this in 6 weeks or 8 weeks instead of 14 weeks. um,
That's a.
when it first came up, he was like, "Oh, I can't do it." Now it's all the rage.
Hmm.
And I even actually did um, my first master's. I started when they first started it out was the um, online learning. He was like, "Oh no, I got to sit in front of the teacher." I'm like, "Nope."
Hmm.
And my last degree definitely was 100% online.
Okay.
Um, and I mean, again, it depends on the person. Once I started the accelerated track, I was like, I gotta have this for my last master's degree. It has to be accelerated. I cannot spend 14 weeks. It's just knowing you and knowing yourself.
Okay.
And I know myself. I know if you can teach it to me in 6 weeks, please don't drag it out for 14. I'm just not. My attention span,
Hmm.
um it's just
Let's
not
get
going to
it
hold.
done. Let's get it done. Hmm.
Yeah, it's just not going to hold it. And so that's again, it's just knowing yourself. If you need those extra weeks and everything, and that's you, then by all means do it. Don't go by what Katrina Brittingham is doing, because everyone learns differently.
Hmm.
And we are over the hour, and we're still talking about this. Everything is, you can go into a longer thing. That's what it's like. If you have questions, if you need some guidance, reach out to us. Of course, it's for a fee, not free, because this knowledge costs me a fee.
Oh yeah. You gotta pay to play. You've got to pay to play.
um, but definitely talk to me. If you are a business and you need some help with that, if you are a professional and you need some help and to get where you need to be, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. Also, I don't break anybody's pocket. I may not be the cheapest girl in the bin, but I'm not the most expensive either, and everything. And we can work out whatever it is we need to work out to make sure that you get that. But it is definitely worth, the investment. What Dr. Love does is definitely worth the investment, and you will get that back
Absolutely.
100 times over.
Mhm.
So, make that investment, invest in yourself. The same thing. If you're getting coached, is the same thing as going to school. You would never walk into a university and say, I want my degree for free.
Mhm.
It just doesn't happen. And
Yeah.
so when it comes to things like that, what I found too is that you get what you pay for. I've
Yes.
had people come to me, it's like, oh, you're too expensive, and they go to someone cheaper, and then a few months later they're coming back to me because they didn't get their money's worth, or they got their money's worth.
Mhm.
However you want to look at it. And they're like, okay, I need some real assistance with this. So you want to make the investment that you need to make. It was
Yes,
a
indeed.
difference between going to what was that? The When my mom was when I was a kid and my mom was there, they would have correspondence school
Yeah, corresponding courses. Yes.
versus the university. Well, the correspondence schools were not as thorough, I must say,
Mhm. Mhm.
and keep myself out of trouble,
Mhm.
as the universities.
Universities.
They also were not as regarded,
Yes.
but no, you're getting someone who is well versed and educated, that's in the profession, that has worked in the professions and done the things that you're doing, and also has the certifications to boot. I made sure that I had everything up in line. Dr. The Real Deal Love made sure he had everything up in line and had everything just set up just to help you get where you need to be.
Mhm.
So that being said, and that little commercial that took longer than it was supposed to take. Of course, my engineer is probably like trying to strangle
Time
me
is
right
up.
now. But we are going to go. We always have so much fun and enjoyment. This is what we love to do, and that's why I got to stop myself from talking. Zip. We will see you next week. Bye bye. Thank you for joining us for another episode of High Tea with me. To be a guest on the show, contact us via email info@ventureready.net. Thank you again, and see you next week.